live at thezone1059.com.
Here we go. Welcome in on this. What is it? Thursday. Welcome in to the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio, Farm Bureau Insurance. Go with the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau Insurance all across the great state of Mississippi. Your hometown heroes, that's your local Farm Bureau Insurance agents. What up? How are y'all on this Thursday? I hope you're doing well. There's lots of ways for you to be a part of the show, and we do have quite a bit to get into. And there's, like I say, lots of ways. If you're on the live stream, hey to you over there in YouTube land and on the Book of Face, better known as Facebook, out there on X. Used to be Twitter, now it's just X. Right? Know what it is? Y'all can all comment. Type in a comment, a question, opinion, otherwise. Hit comment. Pops up right there on the Murray West live thread. You can bring it on in here and be a part of the show that way. You can text me. You can call me. Those numbers are on the screen if you're watching. And if you're listening, I will give you the numbers in just a moment. First, I got to take a sip of hot coffee from High Point Roasters in New Albany. There you go. And so I think we're, as far as I'm concerned, I'm greased up and ready to go. All right, those numbers. Text me on the Country Please and text line 885-3776. I will repeat it later. Or call me on the Davini phone, the Davini Equipment phone line, Davini Equipment, Madison and in Jackson. You are Kubota dealer. The number to call, 897-1059. Again, I'll repeat those if you missed them. But before I go any further, I need to make an introduction to you for you today. Say hello to the Bank of England Mortgage Company and the mortgage man, Wyatt McGee. New supporter of the Matt Wyatt Show and a new part of the show. He's going to be a part of the show going forward. Even gave me a brand spanking new hat. Check it out. That's right, BOE, Bank of England. Look at my shiny new hat, my favorite color, green. Kind of a hunter green with a leather patch on the front. See that? Look at that. Look at that hat right there. Look at that. That is a good-looking hat right there. The Bank of England. And so just to make an introduction, they're going to be a part of the show every day as we do headlines at the top of the first and second hour of the show, just kind of running down the headlines of the day. And we're going to do that right now. Your headlines for today on February the 1st, which happens to not only be the first day of a new month, it's the month of baseball. Take a bow. Take a bow, baseball. It's the month of baseball. Well, college baseball anyway. And I don't know, like, Major League pitchers, catchers, when they report. I don't know if it's February, March, whatever. But you got college baseball coming up later this month. So we're inside of baseball month. So headlines every day are going to be brought to you just like today from Bank of England Mortgage and Wyatt McGee, the mortgage man. And some of y'all know him a lot longer than I've known him. I'm fortunate enough to get to know him. Some of y'all are fortunate enough to have known Wyatt for a long, long time, right? And you've heard about him. Over at mortgagemanms.com, you've known that Bank of England and Wyatt McGee, they've had an office in Ridgeland for a while, and they now have locations in Starkville, Oxford, and in Tupelo. And here's what I want to tell you. If you are in the market as a first-time home buyer, or if you know one, or let's say you have one, if you're a mom and dad, you have in your family a first-time home buyer. Bank of England has been allocated up to $1.55 million for a special grant for first-time home buyers. Each borrower gets as little as $8,500 all the way up to $20,000 towards the purchase of a home, and the program is over when the funds run out. They've got the money now. You need to take advantage of it now. And here's the thing. If you take advantage of that towards your first home, there's absolutely no repayment of that necessary, as long as you stay in the home and don't sell within 5 years. They also offer an FHA program that you can pay, that will help you pay that 3.5% down payment. Lots more. Bank of England, your one-stop shop for very competitive rates. Check them out, mortgagemanms.com. Go over there and tell Wyatt I said hello. All right, headlines for today. Now, y'all pick We can go any kind of direction you want to go as far as I'm concerned, but pick, because there's a lot here. First, a man has pled guilty to charges in the Alabama baseball betting scandal. And on top of that, we have a ruling from the NCAA about former Alabama baseball coach Brad Bohannon. Now, that's legal stuff. So let's stay in the legal world just for a minute. Another headline here today, a judge has dropped an Ole Miss player's lawsuit against Lane Kiffin. Remember the whole deal, DeSanto Rollins, and they had recorded his conversation with Lane Kiffin, and it was about mental health and needing a break, and you had the deal, the recording, and it sounded like Lane Kiffin was being mean, but everybody that had ever played football was like, well, that's just kind of the way it is. Well, a judge has dropped that lawsuit. It's out. Gone. See it. Also, today, headline in the NFL. The Commanders have hired Dan Quinn. So, formerly the Redskins, Washington. The Commanders have hired away the Cowboys defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn. That, according to reports, he's going to be the head coach. You have a story here of a college sitting head coach, was anyway, Jeff Hafley. He was the head football coach at Boston College, and he is leaving Boston College to go be a defensive coordinator in the NFL. All right, so he's leaving BC to go be a DC. So those are your headlines for today. We can go any number of directions you want to go, and we're off and running. And you're right. We're only a couple of days getting closer into this weekend. We'll have some more basketball, and State's got a big one. State's got another road game coming up on Saturday night. Got to go to Tuscaloosa. And, at some point, it's just not going to be good enough to be close. and State's really, really, done well for itself in winning those home games against those top 10 teams, Tennessee and Auburn. But at some point, you're going to have to win one on the road. And it's going to be a tough task because Alabama's getting hot. They got them ranked. They're on a little bit of a win streak right now. Alabama had a huge, really like against all odds sort of comeback last night in Athens, Georgia. I think Georgia was up, 41-27 at halftime? So they were up 14 at halftime, 41-27. And in the second half, Bama came back and won that basketball game. So Alabama's playing good basketball, and so State's going to have its hands full. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And I really think, too, maybe the biggest story of all is welcome to February. Welcome to Bank of England Mortgage and the mortgage man, Wyatt McGee, being a part of the show going forward, bringing us our headlines at the top of each hour. And welcome to the month of baseball. And, oh, by the way, welcome, Beaver. How you doing, Beaver? Good. Holler at your boy. All right. Repeated the numbers. I'm going to come to your comments right now on the live thread. But I want to read you some of the details of this story about the betting scandal at Alabama. And, man, listen, Brad Bohannon, the former coach, got popped. Y'all can text the show on the Country Pleasing text line, the number 885-3776. Another way to say it, 885-ESPN. Just text that number to get on in here. And you can call me, the number to call, 897-1059, 601 number, 897-1059. First up, hey, Sven, dropping me a comment on the Murray West live thread. Go to murraywest.com, contract embroidery company right here in Mississippi. Sven says, Hail State, everyone. He says, to start, here's a tribute question. Who is State's all-time leader in receiving yards? No Google allowed. Okay, so wouldn't that be... So to make career yards, Sven, if I'm not looking it up, wouldn't it be Fred Ross? It's going to be what? Either Marty McDowell or Fred Ross, wouldn't it? One of those two? Wouldn't it be Fred Ross? I think Fred Ross, if we're talking about career yards. Yeah, Kobe commented on YouTube on the Murray West live thread. He said, almost baseball season. You bet it is. You bet it is. We do need to warm up. Hey, Danny. Danny got on in here and said, Hail State, Matt from Ringgold, Georgia. Yeah, Sven, I know you get, opening day of baseball, Major League Baseball, on April the 1st. I was just talking about when the pitchers and catchers report, which is sometime here, well, I guess it's into February. I'd have to look it up, though. I don't know the dates exactly. All right, I got it right. Sven said I scored a touchdown there. I got it 100%. So Fred Ross is number one, and then second in the books, career receiving yards would be Chad Bumphus. And I guess you're talking about two guys for state that, the benefit of playing for 4 years, right? Both guys played as freshmen. I mean, Chad started the first game he ever suited up for at Mississippi State. And I think he had a touchdown catch in his first game. And that was Dan Mullen's first game as head coach. Yeah, I think that's right. Okay, here you go. Details on this. This is, since we kind of got baseball on the brain a little bit today. An Indiana businessman, and he's a youth baseball coach also. How about that? Has pled guilty to federal charges related to an investigation into a betting scheme on college baseball. Now, it was last spring when it happened, right? When they found out they fired the Alabama coach and all this. So documents got filed yesterday in U.S. District Court, the Northern District of Alabama. The guy's name is Bert Eugene Neff of Marion County, Indiana. Was charged with obstructing a federal investigation. So that's one of the charges. Including destroying evidence, tampering with witnesses, and providing false statements to the FBI. Dadgummit. Once they got you, man, just tell the truth. He faces a maximum sentence of not more than 10 years and a fine of up to $250,000. So this is coming all out of that Alabama and LSU baseball game from last year. I don't know if you remember that or not. It was back in April of last year, so not quite a year ago. It was in Baton Rouge. You remember, Alabama was playing down there. The thing that happened where, there was a scratch from one of your starting pitchers for Alabama, and they found out that the head coach, Brad Bohannon, was on the phone with this guy who was actually talking with him while he was in a casino placing bets or something like that. It was crazy. So it led to the firing of Brad Bohannon. Now, here's the story. Multiple sources familiar with what transpired told ESPN that Neff attempted to bet on LSU to win the game after communicating with Bohannon, the coach. So it's almost like it's clear as day, right? Anyway, so you remember the incident. So this guy's pled guilty to all that. And with all those charges, federal authorities say that he shared messages from an associate identified in the documents as Individual 1 regarding an injury to a pitcher that resulted in the lineup change, moments before the game started. Alabama scratched its starting pitcher before the game, and LSU won it 8-6. Maybe the most amazing thing about the whole deal was that LSU team only managed to beat that Alabama team in that game 8-6. In spite of Alabama having to scratch its starting pitcher. Everybody betting on LSU. Yeah, and the result of this too, I saw this today too. I was going to try to scroll over here and see if I could find it for you. But there was some results on this thing for him as well, for Brad Bohannon, the former Alabama coach. Let's see, here it is. Listen to this, y'all. So this is what the NCAA handed down for Brad Bohannon. They've released the penalties. You know what? And I bet you, don't you think that they probably already knew and all this was already done, but they released to the public what the penalties are for the baseball coach once this thing on the federal side got handled, which was the guy pleading guilty yesterday. The NCAA has given Brad Bohannon a 15-year show cause. And he will be suspended for 5 baseball seasons if he's employed during the show cause. See, I don't understand that. But it's basically a penalty that says, because of this, you ain't working in baseball anymore. It's it. You will not know. You are completely and utterly unemployable, according to this. Now, there's more on this. Okay, so people have gotten a hold of some of these documents. According to those who have looked through it, on the day that this happened, now, and I'm just seeing this, okay, so y'all hang with me, and then I'm coming to your text. But now that all this has become public, the NCAA stuff is out. Neff, the guy who was placing the bets in some casino, getting a call from a baseball coach, and, he's pled guilty, and now these documents come out. But they're saying that Brad Bohannon, the coach of Alabama, he's in the dugout. He's had to scratch his starting pitcher, that he texted the guy who's doing the betting these words, quote, hammer, in all caps, ... is out for sure. And then said, let me know when I can tell LSU, hurry. Right? In other words, hurry up and place the bet, and then you let me know now I'm clear to tell LSU that he's out. In this negotiation resolution, some of this stuff is popping up here. And here's what it says. These are official court documents. On April 28, 2023, prior to Alabama's baseball game against LSU, Brad Bohannon, the coach, sent several electronic messages via the Signal encrypted messaging application to a bettor that Bohannon knew was involved in sports wagering activities. The electronic messages indicated that Alabama baseball student-athlete 1, which that's the pitcher, the scheduled starting pitcher for that evening's contest against LSU, would not start the contest due to an injury. Bohannon provided this information to the bettor before reporting the starting lineup, with student-athlete 1 replaced as the starting pitcher, to the LSU coaching staff, which he's got to report that to the LSU coaching staff at some point. Specifically, Bohannon texted the bettor these words, hammer, all caps, ... is out for sure. Okay, now look, hammer's not a nickname. He's telling him what to do. Hammer, as in, isn't that a betting term? Like hammer it? So he says hammer. And then redacted, the pitcher's name is out for sure. Let me know when I can tell LSU, hurry. I mean, good night, Brad. Shortly after receiving the electronic message from Bohannon, the bettor attempted to place a $100,000 wager on the LSU baseball team at the BetMGM Sportsbook at the Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. But the sportsbook staff limited the bettor to a $15,000 wager. The bettor then attempted to place additional wagers involving the April 28th Alabama versus LSU baseball game, but the sportsbook staff declined the wagers due to suspicious activity. This suspicious activity included the bettor's insistent demeanor to get the bet placed and statements to sportsbook staff that the bet was, quote, for sure going to win. And, quote, if only you guys knew what I knew, end quote. The suspicious activity also included the bettor showing sportsbook staff messages from Bohannon and explaining that the messages were Bohannon, informing the bettor that Alabama was scratching its starting pitcher before the game and before Bohannon alerted LSU. Now, y'all, how dumb can somebody be? I ain't saying you. What is it? What was that that the radio show used to, the other radio, Dumb Crooks? Like, so according to these documents, see, and we speculated on all this when it went down, but now that it's out, it's out. So according to these documents, the Bama pitcher is out. The coach is texting this guy who's in a casino at that very second and tells him to hammer it. Hammer LSU. bet on LSU, the team that my team's playing against, because our pitcher is scratched. He's out for sure. And then you get the bet placed, and then you let me know so that I can let LSU know he ain't in. And then this guy tries to make a $100,000 bet. They won't let him. $15,000. According to this, his demeanor was a dead giveaway, insistent demeanor, freaking out. And then made statements to the staff at the casino. Said to them, this is for sure going to win. And the other quote is, if you only knew what I knew. Listen to this. The suspicious activity also included the bettor showing sportsbook staff messages from Bohannon, the Alabama coach. Look here, he texted me. And explaining that the messages were from Bohannon, the Alabama coach. Informing him that they were scratching their starting pitcher before the game and before Bohannon alerted LSU. I'm a little bit shocked. I really am. I'm not going to bat for any of this and in support of any of it. I'm just looking at it on the surface, and it's like we've watched enough heist movies to know you got to be really smart. And the one thing you can't be is an idiot. And this is good heavens, man. Just getting started with you. On this Thursday, your reaction coming up. Stick around. Y'all have heard me talk about Murray West and MurrayWest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. When I say they do quality stuff, they really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, MurrayWest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough. If you need your logo printed, embroidered, sewn on to anything, custom apparel and other stuff, make sure you go there. Murray West, you can find them online. MurrayWest.com. That's MURRY West.com.
I'm Eddie Holcomb with Washington County Farm Bureau Insurance.
I'm Scott Rainwater with Farm Bureau Insurance here in Washington County.
I'm Blake Policini with Washington County Farm Bureau.
I'm Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
I think you know what time it is. It's time to eat. Country pleasing, jalapeno and cheddar, green onion. And no, it's not a grill, see that? But the fire is just about burnt down enough where it's time to put some of this on there. And the only decision when it comes to country pleasing sausage is which flavor, jalapeno and cheddar or maybe green onion. Both.
Break me off a piece of that.
Look at that, what that is. That's real green onion. Like that monkey who set his tail on a railroad track. It won't be long now. Country pleasing sausage, these flavors and many, many others. Get them online at 𝐁𝐮𝐫𝐶𝐚.com, at a grocery store near you, pretty much anywhere in the Southeast. Walk up in there and say, "Country Pleasing, please." They'll know what you're talking about.
I was born and raised in Greenville. I've always called Greenville home. This is where I, was raised, went to high school, graduated high school, worked all my life here, leading up to going to college. So even when I moved from Greenville, I always told people, they asked me where you're from, I always said I'm from Greenville. I have mother, father, brother, niece, aunt, all live here in Greenville. So this is home. This is where I, live, and I've just always called it home. Small town, I feel like I could walk in any place tomorrow and know 2 to 3 people in there. It's small town. Someone's on the side of the road broken down. Hey, you need a boost, flat tire, you need help changing it. That's just kind of, what I love about this area. The blues and the food and everything that comes along with the Mississippi Delta that I love. I tell people all the time, my business cards have my cell phone number on them for a reason. Insurance doesn't happen from 8 to 5. When you need me, it's going to be after 5. It hardly ever.
1059 and worldwide at thezone1059.com.
Interesting details. And look, let's just be real here. The reason that they are interesting is because it's almost, you look at it and you're kind of flabbergasted that people could be so, I don't know, just like dumb and careless. What in the world are you thinking? In case you're just tuning in, so the headline that we had, headlines on the show brought to you by Bank of England Mortgage and Wyatt McGee, the mortgage man. Check him out at mortgagemanms.com. They got a really cool program going right now to help first-time home buyers. Money available to help you get in the house, get in a house. All right. Yeah. So the guy who was involved in that betting scandal that got the Alabama baseball coach fired last year, he's pled guilty to all these charges. His charges were, this is the guy who was in the casino trying to bet on the game, getting the info like by the minute from the Alabama coach in the dugout. And his charges were destroying evidence, tampering with witnesses, providing false statements to the FBI, and obstructing a federal investigation. Man, he hit for the cycle. I'm sorry, I had to. Maximum sentence of 10 years, a fine up to $250,000. Meanwhile, a baseball coach, the NCAA gave him a 15-year show cause, and like he has to be suspended for 5 baseball seasons if anybody employs him. And in other words, it's not happening. He ain't gonna be employed in college baseball at an NCAA school anywhere. It's just not gonna happen. Nobody's gonna do that. And what would you say? And then the other thing too, again, if you're just tuning in the details, where the guy who was in the casino got the text from the Alabama coach, told him, "Hey, we just had to scratch our pitcher. He's hurt. Hammer LSU." That was his word. His word in the text, hammer LSU, basically. And let me know when you've done it so then I can let LSU know he ain't in there. I mean, it was just and then the guy, dumb enough in the casino, he tries to put $100,000 on the game and they won't let him. And then he just comes right out and tells him, "Do y'all see my phone? Look who's texting me. It's the coach." What happened? How drunk was the guy? That's what I want to know. Dumb, drunk, and gambling. That's a bad combination right there. Let's just be real about it. Unnamed texter on the Country Pleasing text line. Country Pleasing sausage on grocery store shelves all around the Southeast. It is the best. And yes, I began chowing down last night on the new duck and pork flavor. And it is some kind of fine. And I'm going to cook some, put it on a hot dog bun. And, hey, it's the real deal. Try it. Somebody texted me on the Country Pleasing text line and said, sad, very sad about the Alabama baseball Guy taking a hit for an addicted gambler. Coach needs a meeting at Gamblers Anonymous. Or this texter saying Alabama baseball is a program because they're on probation, right, for 3 years or something like that. Taking a hit for an addicted gambler, and the coach needs a meeting at Gamblers Anonymous. I guess that's what GA is. Well, and look, I'm going to say, I got to meet Brad in a couple of different settings. The first time I met him was when I was shooting video and doing interviews for that documentary, the call it the 11.7, documentary about baseball that we did, interviewed coaches. And that goes back to, when was that? Was it 2020 or was it 21? I think 21, because it's all running together now. The uneven, you can see it on my website. It's MattWyattMedia.com. You look up Uneven Baseball on YouTube. It was a long form piece kind of extrapolating out all the details that went into the restrictions in college baseball around scholarships for baseball players and why they get so little and all that kind of stuff, and how it affected recruiting and how it gave some schools tremendous advantages, particularly the private ones, and all that. Anyway, so that's when I met him, because I went over there and I'd interviewed Greg Byrne. We sat down in his office, which that was really neat. I'll be honest with you. Greg, his office as the athletics director, I don't know if people know this, but Greg Byrne's office at Alabama is Bear Bryant's old office. And so much of what's in there is original, obviously, to Bear Bryant's office. The furniture, the floors, and the walls. It's really cool. And where it's positioned, it looks right out over the football practice facility and that kind of thing. It's really neat. But anyway, interviewed Greg for that from an athletics director's perspective. And then he got me in touch with his coach at the time, Brad Bohannon. Went him, and Brad, he could not have been a nicer guy. He was so highly thought of, real cerebral, smart guy, but just on a personal level, he couldn't have been nicer to me and couldn't have been better. And I do hate it for him. I do. It's not like we're buddy friends or anything like that, but we hadn't had the chance to spend that kind of time together. But really cordial. He was really kind to me, really helped me out. And I just hate it for him. I really do, because basically for him and Brad, I think if you were to track it back, like his background, he didn't initially start in baseball and in coaching baseball. He was doing some other stuff because he's a really smart guy, academically. But I think with this ruling, it just means he's going to do something else. So his college, coaching career in college baseball is basically over. Tiger Bait texted the show and said, "What a dummy." Says the guy should have bet on LSU anyway. Says if you play dumb games, you win dumb prizes. And that is one saying I've always heard. Nick says, "Why am I not surprised it was a youth baseball coach? Guaranteed he still tells stories of hitting a dinger with his black magic to win a game against a Piggly Wiggly." Now, I take a little bit of offense to that, Nick, because I like to tell stories about home runs I hit, with a black magic. In fact, I still had my black magic bat that weighed a ton. And I wasn't smart enough in high school to realize that all that tape I put on the handle made it heavier. I would have teammates and stuff pick my bat up and go, "Matt, how do you swing this thing, man?" You realize you get a lot more bat speed with a new bat. Well, that was my bat. A real unnamed texter said, "Sounds like Dumb and Dumber." I mean, you just couldn't have. I don't know that you can explain it any other way than that guy, the guy who's pled guilty to those 4 or 5 charges, who was actually in the casino, that he had to have been inebriated. He had to have been, or on drugs or something to do that. I mean, really. But like I say, play dumb games, win dumb prizes. J-Rock texted the show and said, "Bohannon, just go down the street and find the biggest idiot to play the bets." Yeah. But here's the thing about it. There is no excusing this. And I realize, okay, it is easier for me to stand where I am standing now, later in life, way far removed from playing or coaching in college athletics. I get it. So it's easy to stand here and say this now, but still, I knew it then. Is if you are playing or coaching, under no circumstance whatsoever can you be gambling. You can't do it. It's not allowed. It won't work. It's wrong. Let alone betting on your own team or against your own team or telling somebody else to do it. Let alone that. You can't be involved in it at all under any circumstance whatsoever. And then beyond even saying you can't be involved in it, and that's according to rules or laws and everything else, you shouldn't. That's probably the bigger issue here. Why can't we talk about morals and integrity? Why can't we? So the bigger issue is, especially if you are playing or coaching in sports, you shouldn't ever involve yourself in gambling. Period. End of story. Any discussion of it beyond that statement is just basically discussing varying levels of wrong. The only right way to look at it is especially if you are playing or coaching, you cannot involve yourself in gambling on it. You can't. Not only you can't, you shouldn't. That has always been the case, and it will always be the case. I don't care where it's legal. That's beside the point. You shouldn't be involved in it. Again, like I said, I'm not coaching, I'm not playing. Realize, hey, it's easy for me to say, right? Yeah, well, it might mean that I got kind of a clear vision on this thing. From right over here. Steer clear. And just like Tiger Bates said, play dumb games, win dumb prizes. All right. Boy, howdy. There's a lot on this. So Chuck and Danny and Jonathan and Jimmy and Billy and all of y'all on the Murray West live thread coming to you. We got texts coming in as well. And what about Lane Kiffin? That case is dismissed. More on that coming up. Stick around.
I was born and raised in Greenville. I've always called Greenville home. This is where I, was raised, went to high school, graduated high school, worked all my life here, leading up to going to college. So even when I moved from Greenville, I always told people, they asked me where you're from, I always said I'm from Greenville. I have mother, father, brother, niece, aunt, all live here in Greenville. So this is home. This is where I, live, and I've just always called it home. Small town, I feel like I could walk in any place tomorrow and know 2 to 3 people in there. It's small town. Someone's on the side of the road broken down. Hey, you need a boost, flat tire, you need help changing it. That's just kind of what I love about this area, the blues and the food and everything that comes along with the Mississippi Delta that I love. I tell people all the time, my business cards have my cell phone number on them for a reason. Insurance doesn't happen from 8 to 5. When you need me, it's going to be after 5. It hardly ever happens where you have a wreck, get pulled over, need an insurance card, wind blows, shingles off your roof. All these things happen, and it's typically after 5. And so the ability for someone to call me, get in contact with me, text me, ask me a question, and that's what it's about to me, is helping the people that we serve, is taking care of people, and them knowing that they can count on me whenever they need me. I am Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
Y'all have heard me talk about Murray West and MurrayWest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. When I say they do quality stuff, they really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, MurrayWest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, 𝐁𝐿, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough. If you need your logo printed, embroidered, sewn on to anything, custom apparel and others.
59.com.
Jerry Reed, eastbound and down. We got a long way to go, and we got a short time to get there. Chuck commented on the YouTube live thread over here in the Murray West live thread. He's watching on YouTube, and Chuck said, that sounds like an example of what happens when idiots hatch a plan. There were some idiots involved in this for sure. Danny commented and said, regarding that betting attempt, you have to quote Forrest Gump here. Stupid is as stupid does. Chuck also gave me a quote that is often attributed to Albert Einstein. 2 things are infinite, the universe and human stupidity. And I'm not sure about the universe. Did he really say that? That sounds more like something that a comedian would say. I like that one. Jonathan weighs in on the Murray West live thread. You need some embroidery done? They are a contract embroidery company right here in Mississippi, Murray West. You can look them up online, MurrayWest.com, MURRY West.com. See some of the folks there on the website they work with and for Ole Miss Athletics, 𝐁𝐿, Prairie Wildlife, others. And just about every high school in the state is sending their gear up there to be embroidered right here in Mississippi. And you should too. So your church, group, your team, your company, your business, your brand, whatever it is, you need embroidery, custom apparel, that's where you go. Jonathan said, man, I remember Brad's segment on your documentary. He sure had an opinion. I remember saying, I bet he has a bit more to say than that if given the chance. I guess, it for somebody like me, Jonathan, it's probably not always the smartest thing to do if you were to go into bat and really harping about the virtues of some individual or versus another, and without really knowing those things, right? Because it could always, make you look silly down the road. But I really don't think that Brad Bohannon was as we said here, the idiot in this scenario. because I don't think he is. I think what he's guilty of is being involved in something he shouldn't have been involved in the first place. And that's any sort of sports gambling while you're a coach. And in guilty of becoming lax and letting that grow and kind of fester. Maybe it is. Some people do have an addiction. There's a reason they have those services, let it grow and fester into something that you just kind of blinded by it and can't see the forest for the trees. And the fact that you're in a uniform as a coach of a team and you got no business, being involved in sports gambling while you're in that position, let alone handing out information on game day. He's certainly guilty of that. And he's probably guilty, too, of being on that text machine a little too much. But, my hope for him is that he can rehabilitate and find something else to make a living. Is he a genuinely nice person? He definitely is. He definitely is. And Jimmy, you're right. Jimmy said his college career coaching was already over. The NCAA penalties really mean nothing. And you're right. Nobody's going to hire him after that. So it's certainly on to something else, for sure. For sure. Yep. Good point. RT on the Country Pleasing text line says, temptation has been a problem since Adam and Eve. Yep. Been a problem since then, and it always will be, right? Until. And that's maybe the truest, RT, maybe the truest statement that we're going to have on the show today. Well, listen, there's news again right now out of Tennessee all over again. Okay, and I am going to get to all that news. There's Tennessee players doing things in court. There's a new statement from the Tennessee athletics director that popped out there in the last 5 minutes or so. But I think maybe the most important thing that we have to cover first is that Beaver sent me the pronunciation of their quarterback's name. And I'm going to play it for you, by the way, coming up. All right, here it is. His name is Nico. Here, I'm going to give it a chance according to his pronunciation. His name, and here I go. I'm going to do my best. Nico 𝐁𝐮𝐫𝐽. Nico 𝐁𝐮𝐫𝐽. 𝐁𝐮𝐫𝐽. Say it with me. Nico 𝐁𝐮𝐫𝐽. Here is Nico 𝐁𝐮𝐫𝐽 himself in a news story that aired this past December or whatever up in Tennessee. Beaver found it and sent it to me. Here he is himself telling you how to pronounce his name.
I'm Nico 𝐁𝐮𝐫𝐽, and the correct way to pronounce my last name is 𝐁𝐿𝐴𝐽.
𝐁𝐿𝐴𝐽. Got it? Repeat after me. 𝐁𝐿𝐴𝐽. 𝐁𝐿𝐴𝐽. Even when Beaver sent that to me last night, and I listened to it, I still had a hard time saying it. I had to write it down like in pronunciation form, and 𝐁𝐿𝐴𝐽. I think the best thing to do would be for us to memorize it and not look at it. Because if you look at it, you're going to have trouble. All right, so that's one piece of Tennessee news. Here's another piece of Tennessee news. University of Tennessee football player Jackson Lampley filed a declaration in the state of Tennessee's lawsuit against the NCAA today. It is a 6-page statement filed in Eastern District of Tennessee Federal Court, summarizes his experience as a student athlete, gives his readiness to testify in the lawsuit against the NCAA. He's an offensive lineman from Nashville. This, folks, this is what it's progressing to. We got him, 6-page statement from describing his experience as a Tennessee student athlete. And now there's this. that took a sip of coffee from Danny White, the athletics director at the University of Tennessee. And it's a heck of a statement. I'll tell you what, I don't know if Danny writes this himself, but I'm impressed one way or the other. Statement from Danny White. It's all over social media right now. If you're out there working, driving, listening, you hadn't heard this. The NCAA, he says, generally does not comment on infractions cases because there's a rule against it. However, here we go. That has not stopped them in the past from leaking information to the media as they did this week about us. Their actions made this ill-conceived investigation public and forced us to defend ourselves. Danny White, Tennessee Athletics Director. It is clear that the NCAA staff does not understand what is happening at the campus level all over the country in the NIL space. After reviewing thousands of Tennessee coach and personnel phone records, NCAA investigators didn't find a single NIL violation. So they moved the goalpost to fit a predetermined outcome. Listen, this is the athletics director. They are stating that the nebulous, contradictory NIL guidelines written by the NCAA, not the membership, don't matter. And applying the old booster bylaws to collectives. If that's the case, then 100% of the, listen. This is a statement from Danny White, AD Tennessee. If that's the case, then 100% of the major programs in college athletics have significant violations. He says, this is obviously silly and not productive, as is blaming the membership whenever they are challenged. We need to be spending our time and energy on solutions to better organize college athletics in the NIL era, something that NCAA leadership failed to do back in 2021. Student athletes, prospective student athletes, coaches, and administrators across the country deserve better. And Danny White finally says, and I refuse to allow the NCAA to irrationally use Tennessee as an example for their own agenda. Well, buddy, I'll tell you this much. I don't know who writes their speeches, but they write some good ones in Nashville. Well, tweets. Hats off, Danny, if you wrote that, man. Like this, you thought the school president went strong. He used a lot of buzzwords. This man right here laid it out. This man is an athletics director, and he said, according to the laws they wrote, rules they wrote, we didn't break any of them. But they'd already decided what we did and what we were doing, so they moved the goalposts. Now they're going to judge us by the old booster bylaws. He said if that's what they're going to do, in his words, not mine, then 100% of the major programs in college athletics have significant violations. Man, burn it. Let her rip, tater chip. We'll break it down and discuss, and I can't wait to get your reactions coming in hot and heavy. In hour number 2 of the show, right on the other side of this break. Stick around.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-bran cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious, non-habit-forming aid to your diet. You're sure to like All-Bran. Just buy it and try it.
Get on the Kellogg's All-Bran wagon with the best bran in the land. The cereal that tastes bran, the cereal that's all bran, a breakfast treat that can't be beat. Be a regular guy and climb aboard the All-Bran wagon. Eat Kellogg's All-Bran.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
You will enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of Atreyu and Artax, the Rockbiter, and a good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling, unforgettable and free. Yeah! For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, this is the never-ending story.
It's a new thing, it's a fun thing, it's a swing wing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing, it's a wing wing, a brand new classic grand fun thing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing, a fun thing. And now it's your favorite store thing.
It's a what?
Mazda announces some great news for truck buyers. Right now, you can beat the already outstanding value of the $67.95 Mazda SE5. Introducing Mazda SE5 Plus 5. $625 worth of extra features at no extra charge from Mazda. You get a bed liner, mud guards, sliding rear window, floor mats, and AM/FM stereo. That's a $625 value at no extra charge. But hurry, offer ends soon.
Finding precancerous polyps so they can be removed. Remove the polyp, prevent the cancer. Screening also helps find colorectal cancer early, when treatment works best. You might be thinking, oh no, not that test. But here's the thing.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to family ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh no, what are we going to do? Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm fink on a friend to get a promotion?
Yeah, yes, Norm, yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court, Thursday.
For over half a century, dairymen have tried to capture in cans the flavor of pure, fresh milk. And now Foremost has discovered the secret with an evaporated milk that's closest by far to fresh milk itself.
Kind of hard to believe, isn't it? An evaporated milk that doesn't have that old-fashioned evaporated milk taste. But it's true, and you can prove it. You know how most evaporated milks taste in coffee. The flavor goes flat. But try Foremost. You'll see it's white, the way milk ought to look, not drab tan like other brands. And when you taste it, Well, if you're anything like me, you'll never even know it isn't pure, fresh cream. You try it and see. That's Foremost, the closest thing in cans to pure, fresh milk. Remember, your family gets the most from Foremost.
Coca-Cola, come on, girl. Gotta share a Coke with you.
Live at the Zone 105.9 and worldwide. Now, here we go. At the Zone 105.9.com.
Here we go. Back with you and hour number 2. I'm Matt. In the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio, Farm Bureau, go! With the home team. Lots of ways for you to be a part of the show. If you comment, we got comments here from hour 1. We had a lot kind of going on and the whole Tennessee athletics director thing, big statement. They mad. Everybody's guilty if we're guilty. Basically what he said. More on that in a bit. Got comments on that on the Murray West Live thread. Text coming in, the Country Pleasing text line. All of that. And we'll take your phone calls too. I get to hear your voice. Hope you call me on the Divini Equipment phone line. I'll give you those numbers coming up. A reminder here of something you need to know. If you're like me and you're dependent, kind of, well, I mean, we are dependent, all right, on good, strong, reliable, fast internet service. I'm going to help you get some free, the best, in fact. You can get C-Spire Fiber Home Internet. C-Spire Fiber Home Internet service in the ground, right up through your neighborhood to your house. If it's there available to you and you don't have it yet, you can get it and get your first 2 months of service free just by using my name. So like go to cspire.com, sign up right there, check it out, make sure it's in your neighborhood. And if it is, you can get it. Use my name, use code Wyatt, all caps, W-Y-A-T-T. Use code Wyatt at checkout. Get your first 2 months of C-Spire Fiber Home Internet service scot-free. Save yourself some money. All right, headlines brought to you by Bank of England Mortgage and Wyatt McGee, the mortgage man, coming up in just a bit. First, hold on, let me get my bell. Hold on. So I can figure out how to work it. Hey, B. Doggone, I missed him again. Hold on, let's try it with that. Hold on. God, that's too loud, isn't it? Did I hurt your ears? I'm sorry, y'all. Well, I'm 0 for 2 today. Hey, maybe what I ought to do is we'll just hit the music and we'll announce the headlines that way. Headlines! That's what we'll do. We'll pivot. Like a good basketball player, I'll pivot. Headlines brought to you by Bank of England Mortgage and Wyatt McGee, the mortgage man. Head on over to mortgagemanms.com. Bank of England Mortgage. A location in Ridgeland, you've known about that. They have new locations in Starkville, Oxford, and in Tupelo. And they've got a program right now for first-time home buyers. They have allocated up to $1.5 million for a special grant for first-time home buyers at Bank of England. As a borrower, you can get anywhere from $8,500 cash to $20,000 towards the purchase of a home. And the program is over when the money runs out. You need to take advantage of it. And there's no repayment as long as you don't sell the house within 5 years. They're helping you. They are helping you. Bank of England, your one-stop shop with every very, very, very competitive rates and every form of financing benefits you could possibly look for and the kind of people you want to do business with. Yeah, I'm talking about you, Wyatt. Thanks for the hat, by the way. It fits just perfect. It doesn't leave a red mark on my forehead, you know. I don't, you know, this Bank of England hat that Wyatt gave me, when I take it off, I don't have Peyton Manning forehead. Too bad. All right, headlines today. First up, a man has pled guilty in the Alabama baseball betting case that goes back to last April. The guy who was in the casino Mr. Neff, the youth baseball coach who tried to place this bet after he got a tip from the baseball coach at Alabama. Illegal, by the way. 4 or 5 different charges, like hindering a federal investigation, lying to the FBI, all kinds of stuff. Well, he's pled guilty. And then the NCAA handed down a 15-year show cause, 5-year suspension if he's ever hired again. So Coach Bohannon is not going to be coaching college baseball. A judge has dismissed a former Ole Miss football player's lawsuit against Lane Kiffin. Ole Miss defensive tackle DeSanto Rollins, his lawsuit against Coach Kiffin in the university was dismissed by Judge Michael P. Wills in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Mississippi. And that goes back to the whole deal. You remember, he didn't show up, and then he recorded his conversation with the coach, and Coach Kiffin, he used some colorful language, and he told him, hey, you can't ignore me. You're off the team. Get out of here. I don't care how, if you're having mental problems, fine, but if I call you, you got to come talk to me. And anybody who listened to that thought, Kiffin's right. Like, any football coach is going to take the same approach. You can't just ignore me. You can't just not show up, no matter what it is. And so the judge has thrown the case out. It's over. And then the other headline, that we mentioned, an update on the Tennessee investigation case. Headlines on the show brought to you by Bank of England Mortgage and Wyatt McGee, the Mortgage Man. Check him out at mortgagemanms.com. Tennessee Athletics Director Danny White puts out a statement today. It's pretty good size. And I read all of it a minute ago. We can kind of get back into it here in a second. I got to come to your comments and your text messages. And I'll give you the numbers, too, if you want to text or call. So just hang on. But to me, like, the biggest thing, like the point of it, and then I'll give you a quote from his statement. The point of it was, he's saying, look, they investigated all of our coaches and stuff, and they didn't find anything. But they had already made their mind up that we're out here buying players. So they moved the goalposts and now say that we're beholden to the old booster bylaws that were pre-NIL. And then he said this: if that's the case, then 100% of the major programs in college athletics have significant violations. See, and here's a little ticky-tack thing, and this is not me trying to play gotcha at all, okay? I don't have time for that. I'm just saying it's pretty obvious to me. Like, basically what the Tennessee Athletics Director is saying here is, okay, if you're using the old, in his words, the old booster bylaws now for collectives, okay, then we're guilty. If that's what you're doing, hey, NCAA, you wrote some recent NIL stuff. We didn't write it. You did. But now you're just going to use the old booster bylaws for this collective thing. Then if that's what you're doing, we're guilty. Okay, that's what he said. Because he said, if that's the case, then 100% of the major programs in college athletics have significant violations. In other words, if that's what you're doing, the old booster bylaws, we're guilty, but so is everybody else. And that's troublesome, really, though. Like, if they're after you, that's kind of, I know you want to fight it out in the court of law, and now the state of Tennessee suing the NCAA. What do they do? They suspend the whole thing and just kind of hold it up. But it's kind of troublesome if you're admitting, okay, if that's what you're using, yeah, we're guilty, but so is everybody else. I don't know that that's necessarily the best defense. Even though, to his credit, to Danny White's credit, it's 100% truth. All right, so what do you think about that? It's all about NIL. It's all about collectives. And y'all, listen. Okay, and that'll wrap it up, at least for restating the headlines. 3 big headlines, and boy, they're big ones. A case dismissed against Kiffin. A coach gets a 15-year show cause, and a man's going to jail for maximum of 10 years and a maximum of $250,000 fine dealing with gambling at Alabama. And the NCAA is after the University of Tennessee. So as I introduced to you today on the show for the first day, our headlines brought to you by Bank of England Mortgage and Went McGee, the mortgage man. Man, we had some big headlines today. I don't know that we'll have many days where we'll have 3 headlines bigger than those 3 that don't involve us directly. But there you go. So let me know what you think. You can text me on the Country Pleasing text line. Number to text, 885-3776, 601 number, 885-3776 or 885-ESPN. You could call me. I get to hear your voice that way. I'd love to hear your voice. Call me on the Davini Equipment phone line, 897-1059, 601 number. Davini Equipment, Madison and in Jackson, your Kubota dealer, 897-1059. Principal text the show. Good point. He said, you shouldn't say the first 2 months of C-Spire Fiber is scot-free. It's Wyatt-free. Good point, Principal. I'm going to remember that. You may have a knack at this marketing and PR and advertising. They maybe need to be a writer, Principal. That would help. Yeah, it's not scot-free. It's Wyatt-free. Use code Wyatt at checkout, cspire.com. Get your first 2 months of C-Spire Fiber home internet free. Use my name. Brad, he texted me, Country Pleasing text line. He said, Went is a good friend of mine and has handled my mortgages for years. Great guy and good to do business with. He is. He's all those things, and he's a heck of a soccer player, Brad. Did you know that? I mean, even at this age, I'm not saying Went's old, okay, but I'm just saying even at this age, he's still pretty good. Ask him. And I'm really, really glad to get to know him. And glad to tell you about it. They have some stuff that, especially for first-time home buyers right now, some really cool stuff. Brad, okay, he said, yeah, he did know that Went is a good soccer player, and Brad has 12 years on him. Well, so he may be a step faster, Brad, but you got the experience, right? So doesn't that balances out, right? Experience versus speed. Good stuff. All right, so let me give you something about this statement. Chuck commented on it, talking about the Tennessee deal, and he said here on YouTube on the Murray West live thread, the NCAA not following its own rules, I'm shocked. Shocked, I tell you. Yeah. Here's the issue. All right. I'm gonna frame it up for you. I'm not gonna preach or get all emotional about it. I have sometimes we get into these, policy discussions as it relates to college athletics, and I guess, maybe there's a good reason. I'm not in a position to affect any of it. I can just talk about it, judge it from the outside, criticize it. But I've never really bought the idea that the primary issue with the whole setup right now was the portal and the open transfer stuff. I've never quite bought into the idea that that is the primary issue above and more so than just flat out pay for play. In the words of, now I realize I'm putting some words in his mouth, but it's kind of what he's saying, which 100% of the schools out there are involved in, 100% of major programs. I mean, because they refer to it as NIL, because that's the legal term. That ain't what it is. It's pay. You're paying them to play. You're paying them to stay, and you must. You got to pay them to get them to come visit. All right. The outgoing Ohio State athletics director said it, and let me tell you, if you think it's a coincidence that the major players in college football, coaches and administrators that have have freely criticized the lack of leadership and the lack of structure, that they are the same ones who have now quit. If you don't think that's related, then you got another thing coming. Whatever his name, Gene Smith, was the AD at Ohio State. What was it he said about 3 months ago? We got kids telling us we got to pay them $5,000 just to get them to come visit us. Said it. And there was no huge outrage. It was just a story, right? Because we all understand. Guess what? He ain't there no more. You can say it had nothing to do with it. Really? Nothing? Look who's there. Who'd Ohio State go and get for its AD spot? Ross Bjork, who even long before anybody had ever even heard the term name, image, and likeness, was fine with paying them whatever it took to get them at Ole Miss and then again at A&M. And what it netted them, I don't know. It actually netted them more there for a period of time at Ole Miss than it ever netted them at A&M. But it's pretty clear. He's willing to run a program, pay them whatever you got to pay them. Load the wagon. Well, see, you got Gene Smith up there going. He's a little old-fashioned on the back end of his career. He goes, it ain't really right, guys. We got recruits telling us we owe them $5,000 just to come and visit us. So he said it in an interview. Saban. What'd Saban say? Quote him. Call it name, image, and likeness, but we really know what it is. It's really pay for play. Guess what? Quit. Done with it. See ya. Gone. Ain't coming back. Ain't dealing with it. Harbaugh. See ya. Gone. Not coming back. Not going to deal with it. And then this. Here was a headline in the Bank of England Mortgage and Went McGee headlines. I didn't squeeze in there. It would have been a fourth one. But the Green Bay Packers have hired Boston College head football coach Jeff Hafley as their new defensive coordinator. I tried my best to make a clever little thing. I said, so he's leaving BC to be a DC? Look, doing the best I can, okay? But here's the thing. You got a sitting head coach running a program in college who's just tickled. I'm talking about in a Power 5 conference, right? Boston College. And I know it's not Miami, it's not Michigan, it's not Alabama, but still, you're the head coach, the sitting head coach. If you're a head coach at this level and you just quote unquote play ball and you have some success, you're going to parlay that into what? He'll be the next coach at Michigan State, Florida State, North Carolina, somewhere like that, making what? $8, $9 million a year? Just grit your teeth, grin and bear it, deal with it, and play ball. But instead, here's another example of a see ya guy going, see ya, ain't dealing with this. Life's too short to deal with this. And I'm going to go coach defense in the NFL. Guys that have a contract. We know what the contract terms are. We know which ones are going to be here 1 year. We know which ones are going to be here at least 4 years. Right? Who we're just going to focus on football together. And I don't, in the NFL as a defensive coordinator, I do X's and O's and tackling and making plays. What I got into this to do in the first place. I don't have to worry about roster management or roster acquisition. In the NFL, I don't have to renegotiate with every one of my players every offseason and sometimes twice a year. So he's gone. And in response to that, it's gotten to the point where, you don't have to take my word for it, but it's gotten to the point where I'm about to quote you a tweet or a post on X from none other than Kirk Herbstreit. And then I'm going to give you another one from Booger McFarland. See, this is very critical. Y'all have seen the trend. It was little guys like me who started just calling it what it was first. because we're not a part of the big box people with a multi-million-dollar paycheck that we're all dependent on at home, and I don't want to screw that up. And I got a boss telling me, hey, you shut up about that. You don't talk about that. See, I don't have that. Okay, so the little guy like me, we were the first ones out here just calling it what it was publicly, from really the word go, even though some people didn't like it. Now it's gotten to the point that even the big boxes, the Herb Streets, the Booger McFarlands, that sometimes it's almost like they're hooked up to a Nintendo controller back there that you can't see. Now even they're calling it what it is. You can't lie about it anymore. So here's an example. Put the story out there. Thamel and people like that are tweeting about it. Some other media guy says, well, the NFL is the NFL, as in he left being the Boston College head coach to go to the NFL just because being a defensive coordinator in the NFL is that big of a draw versus being the head coach in a Power 5. Well, Kirk Herbstreit directly disagreed with that publicly on X yesterday afternoon. Here's what Herbstreit said. No, he says. College football in its current state will be seeing more and more coaches heading to the NFL. Without boundaries and regulation that makes sense, coaches that get real opportunities in the NFL will be gone. This trend will continue until there's a new governing body and it creates a collective bargaining agreement with players or a union that would include issues like NIL, transfer portal, and eventually revenue sharing. The sport is spiraling out of control, as we know, and many of these coaches are not sticking around and waiting. Just a new reality for the sport. Congratulations to your state governments. Congratulations to your governing bodies. You made your bed. Now lay in it. Roll around. Get real comfortable. Stick around.
Inflation has hit us hard. So here's what's...
Have you ever wished for one product that would clean and shine almost everything in your house? Here it is. Clean and Shine. Like magic, Clean and Shine leaves a nice shine on fine wood furniture. So you don't need furniture polish. It cleans and shines mirrors, so you don't need glass cleaner for mirrors. It cleans and shines refrigerators, like this kitchen product. Even countertops, tile, and vinyl. Try new Clean and Shine, the foam that cleans and shines almost everything in your house.
Someday when people look at me, they'll say, there goes Roy Hobbs, the best there ever was.
TriStar Pictures presents Robert Redford in The Natural, the story of a father and a son.
You got a gift, Roy, but it's not enough.
Of love.
He means the world to me.
And desire.
I'm not waiting for true love to come along, Roy.
A champion.
Roy Hobbs comes along once, maybe twice in everybody's lifetime.
And his destiny.
With or without the records, they'll remember you.
Best there is now, and best there ever will be.
I wouldn't bet against me.
I already have.
Robert Redford, Robert Duvall, Glenn Close, Kim Basinger, Wilford Brimley, Barbara Hershey, Robert Prosky, and Richard Farnsworth as Red. The Natural.
Do you know me? Would you believe I'm Bugs Bunny? I'm also the voice of many other cartoon characters. But in here, they don't care if I'm Elmer Fudd. So I carry an American Express card, the one card I need for travel and entertaining, for business and pleasure. Why, without this, the only way I'd get any attention is by saying, that's all, folks.
To apply for a card, call 800-528-8000.
The American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
The following is a presentation of TBS Sports. Exclusively on Superstation TBS. Superstation TBS presents the Atlanta Braves, America's team. Atlanta Braves baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that distinctively clean, crisp taste that makes Budweiser the king of beers. This Bud's for you. By the official airline of the Atlanta Braves, Delta. We love to fly, and it shows. And by Eckerd Drugs, America's family drugstore.
If a man you've never met before suddenly gives you flowers, that's elation. The exciting new fragrance from Impulse.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to family ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are they going to do? Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm fink on a friend to get a promotion?
Yeah, yes, Stum. Yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court.
I'm here to strip for Dan Fielding.
Thursday.
Oh, what a meal, oh,
Hamburger Helper Lasagna.
for your family.
Authentic Italian taste.
Hearty robusto, but not too spicy, eh?
Hamburger Helper Lasagna turns your plain hamburger into a delicious...
And worldwide at thezone1059.com.
Maybe so, Chuck. I don't know. On the Murray West live thread, Chuck said Saban was just upset because everyone was going to be able to do what his booster has been doing for years. Well, yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. But, you know, Chuck, that's the thing. Like, the NIL is what opened it all up. You could go, well, transfer portal's a major issue, but I don't think so. And maybe it's a chicken or the egg type of deal, which one came first. But it's like you could even have kind of free and loose, you know, transfer rules, eligibility rules and transfer rules, and it still wouldn't be as big a mess if you just couldn't, if it wasn't a situation where you could just outright just pay anybody you want to pay to come play for you. And that's what the transfer portal largely is governed by, is the top players. I mean, just getting offers, and they can call it NIL, but, you know, it's really pay for play. And everybody kind of knows that. Coaches know that. I mean, you know, it is. And, you know, in terms of establishing boundaries and rules and all that everybody has to play by, that's the thing about it, Chuck, is, you know, whether or not someone believes that the old way was better or worse, it, pretty much anybody would agree that there were rules in place, and you felt like, yeah, in varying degrees, and you always wondered why some programs got away with things and others didn't. I get all that. But at least there was the threat that if you fouled it up, did something stupid enough, and it popped up in a newspaper or reported by media, then the NCAA would come in there and then use that information and act. And you at least had to play with the idea that they might be able to get you and that there was enforcement looming out there. And it's like the NCAA as a body is trying to, I don't know, continue to do some of that stuff so as to make a showing. But I don't know that it's really worth their time, because they don't have subpoena power, because they're not a government agency. They are a membership organization. That's what they are. And when your own members are suing you, I mean, what are you going to do? What's the point of going to work every day if your own members are going to sue you for trying to enforce the rules they told you to put in place? It's kind of weird how all that works. So what are the solutions? You know, and I will say that I'm as guilty as anybody. I admit it. I'm as guilty as anybody at here in recent months and stuff, focusing on the problems without necessarily offering up some substantial solution. okay? And tell me this, why wouldn't something like this right here be a better idea? I think there should be, some sort of fund that is available to a student athlete in a revenue generating sport that is available to them upon graduation. It's that's what they ought to do. That's really what they should do. I would love to hear the objections as to why they couldn't do this. Now, again, it goes back to competitiveness, and with the law sort of allowing schools to do this, and that is what they're doing now, which is just open it up. We don't have to play by any rules. Well, then it puts the Big Ten and the SEC in this hyper-competitive mode, right? Those are the two major entities in football, certainly, but really in basketball too, in the revenue sports. And so neither one is willing to be the first to go, we're going to put a cap. We're going to put a structure and a framework that is actually going to tighten down and tamp down some of the outlandish spending that we're doing. Nobody wants to be the first to do it. They would have to do it in conjunction. And, who knows if they will. Because there's this competitiveness of always wanting to have the edge. For the greater good, what you need is all Power 5 to sit down and go, okay, here's how we're going to do it. And then everybody agree on it. People think it's a long shot. I don't think it is. Here's what they ought to do. All across the board. You must tie it to education. You can't get away from that. I don't see how the universities at the major college level can get away from tying everything they do to the education. They are institutions of higher learning. They are in the business of education. If you're not in the business of education, you can't charge tuition to engineering students and education students and marketing and business, okay, who are in finance. I mean, are you in the business of education or not? Well, obviously you are, okay, because in-state tuition, here's what it costs. Here's what your meals cost in our cafeteria. Here's what your parking pass costs on our campus. Your tuition, you're paid, therefore you get to attend this class, and when you're done, you get marks. How old am I? You get grades, and all this kind of stuff. You have your GPA, and when you're done, you get your diploma that shows you're educated in this field and you're ready to hit the working world. It's the keys to the rest of your life, so on and so forth. You decide you want to use it or not. It's up to you. You want to get some more education? Come on back. Master's degree, you got to pay to get that. Doctorate? Yep. Fork it out. Right? You're in the business of education. So if these teams are on campus, they are fielded, and operated by students, right, who are also on campus going to class. You are paying for their tuition, out of state, in state, via scholarships. It's all tied to your school. They wear a uniform with your university's name on it. They play in a league with other teams from what? Universities. It all has to be tied to education. You can't eliminate that part of it. And just like I've said in the past, the people that will look you in the eye in the past and go, well, the education isn't worth anything. The scholarship isn't worth a dime. That's just a number they put on. Well, you can't say that because all 20,000 of their other students are writing a check, sending it into the university every semester. I mean, of course it's worth something because if they weren't playing football, they'd have to write a check to go to those classes and get that degree, just like everybody else does. There's value in it. Obviously, supply and demand, because everybody's writing a check that can't run a 4.4 and isn't 300 pounds and can't kick it through the uprights and can't hit a jump shot. They go to school for all the advantages that come along with that. You must continue to tie to education. That can't go away, right? Right. So here it is. Everybody at the major college level who can fund it, because they make lots of money off football and basketball. Student athletes playing in a revenue-generating sport, they are getting units. Just like the NCAA has set up this structure, sending units of money back to these leagues for their teams playing in the NCAA tournament. We learned last week that that's a real thing. I think the number was $300,000. So if Mississippi State men's basketball team plays one game in the NCAA men's basketball tournament, the SEC gets a kickback of $300,000 from the NCAA. If they play in 2 games, another $300,000. If another SEC team plays one game, $300,000, right? All this money, those units that Coach Yo at Ole Miss was talking about. The NCAA is giving units back to these leagues for every game they play in. Same exact structure, just do it individually for every student athlete in a revenue-generating sport. Your public institutions, I know private can be a little different, but still there'd be a way to work it out. But your public institutions can put the numbers right on out there. Here's what we spent, here's what we made. There's a revenue right there. Here's a percentage each one gets for every game they participate in. Now, when you go, you could put your heads together and go, too, well, what about the guy who was a backup and he played the week before in a game on TV, but this week he didn't get any game. They didn't sub him in there. How does all that work? See, you'd have to protect the coaches from playing times, the whole units thing, but just set a framework, sit down, set it up, and call it units. And if you participate on the field in a uniform for a university, that is ever how many units that goes into your account that will be available to you when you graduate. Yeah, I said graduate from college. Tell me how that doesn't make sense. The NCAA, the governing body in the past, has already put, statute limitations out there about transfers and how the academic stuff transfers from one school to the next. You could do the same thing. Well, Matt, what about, the whole Title IX and equality and equity and all this kind of stuff for women's sports or for teams that don't make money? Well, too bad. You can't revenue share with somebody when you don't have revenue. It's real simple. You can't make money if you don't make money. And if you do, you do. And put the numbers out there. And tie it to education. Prove to me that you're in the business of education for the athletes, the same way that you are with every other student. Stick around.
Have you ever wished for one product that would clean and shine almost everything in your house? Here it is, Clean and Shine. Like magic, Clean and Shine leaves a nice shine on fine wood furniture, so you don't need furniture polish. It cleans and shines mirrors, so you don't need glass cleaner for mirrors. It cleans and shines refrigerators, like this kitchen product, even countertops, tile, and vinyl. Try new Clean and Shine, the foam that cleans and shines almost everything in your house.
Someday when people look at me, they'll say, there goes Roy Hobbs, the best there ever was.
TriStar Pictures presents Robert Redford in The Natural, the story of a father and a son.
You got a gift, Roy, but it's not enough.
Of love.
He means the world to me.
And desire.
I'm not waiting for true love to come along, Roy.
A champion.
Roy Hobbs comes along once, maybe twice in everybody's lifetime.
And his destiny.
With or without the records, they'll remember you.
Best there is now, and best there ever will be.
I wouldn't bet against me.
I already have.
Robert Redford, Robert Duvall, Glenn Close, Kim Basinger, Wilford Brimley, Barbara Hershey, Robert Prosky, and Richard Farnsworth as Red. The Natural.
Do you know me? Would you believe I'm Bugs Bunny? I'm also the voice of many other cartoon characters. But in here, they don't care if I'm Elmer Fudd. So I carry an American Express card, the one card I need for travel and entertaining, for business and pleasure. Why, without this, the only way I'd get any attention is by saying, that's all, folks.
To apply for a card, call 800-528-8000.
The American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
The following is a presentation of TBS Sports. Exclusively on Superstation TBS. Superstation TBS presents the Atlanta Braves, America's team. Atlanta Braves baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that distinctively clean, crisp taste that makes Budweiser the king of beers. This Bud's for you. By the official airline of the Atlanta Braves, Delta. We love to fly, and it shows. And by Eckerd Drugs, America's family drugstore.
If a man you've never met before suddenly gives you flowers, that's elation, the exciting new fragrance from Impulse.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to Family Ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are we going to do?
Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm fink on a friend to get a promotion?
Yeah, yes, yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court.
I'm here to strip for Dan Fielding.
Thursday.
Oh, what a meal, oh,
Hamburger Helper Lasagna.
for your family.
Authentic Italian taste.
Hearty robusto, but not too spicy, eh?
Hamburger Helper Lasagna turns your plain hamburger into a delicious Italian meal with authentic Italian taste. Curly Italian noodles, rich tomato sauce.
Back with you, I'm Matt, in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau, go with the home team. Reminding you also, staying connected to you because of C Spire, the #1 network in Mississippi. You can get C Spire Fiber Home Internet and get your first 2 months of service free. Not scot-free, Wyatt-free, by using code Wyatt at checkout. Use my last name, W-Y-A-T-T. Just like Wyatt Earp, same way. All caps on the website. Go to cspire.com, use code Wyatt at checkout and get your first 2 months of C Spire Fiber Home Internet free on me. Gene said on Facebook, he's on the Murray West live thread, he said, well said, Matt. I'm sure Coach Leach is up there nodding in agreement. Well, you know what, Gene? Yeah, that was one thing that Coach Leach liked, the idea of, for guys that want to get a degree, that you know, they got money waiting on them when they graduate. I mean, it's a fantastic, I think, healthy setup too, because, I mean, you talk about not only you've gotten a scholarship, you got into coaching, maybe you don't make it in the NFL, and boom, you got your degree, okay, because they've encouraged you and tied it to education. You hit the working world and you start out with, you know, money in the bank. And it sounds about right too, right? Because, you know, if you're playing football in a revenue sport, you're just not going to have time to work enough jobs or work a job or whatever to save that kind of money throughout your college career. And yeah, I mean, I think it'd be great. But the other thing that Coach Leach talked about was his idea was even really more, what would you say, revolutionary. He said you would also have some guys that don't want to get a degree. He said, okay, well, if you have some players on your team that they don't want to go to school and they don't want to get a degree, if you want to do that, sign them to a contract. You can pay them. They can play for you, try to make it to the NFL. But the deal is they got a contract. So, you know, we're going to have terms in that contract too. We can cut you just like they do in the NFL at a certain time. We can release you to go be a free agent just like they do in the NFL at times if you don't want to be a student. But if you want to be a student, we'll do it this way. I mean, it really does make a lot of sense, and it absolutely could be done. And for public universities, make it public where the revenue is and what the percentages are, and everybody share in that. And then there would even, I think, then you're talking about incentives for the fan base to, instead of just making a donation, there's incentive for the fan base to really support by buying the tickets, because ticket sales is part of the revenue. Jersey sales and hat sales and all that, you know, maybe so too. Concessions, it's all part of the revenue. But you feel like you're in it together, and it would make a lot of sense. I 100% believe that it's doable. I'm not going to sit here and just refuse the idea that the SEC and the Big Ten could get together. They could. They could get together on it. There's no question about it. And the only way, I feel safe in saying this, the only way that it's going to survive, make it, and be healthy long term is if, as universities, it's all tied to the university, therefore it's tied to education. If you completely unhitch it from education and it's supposedly ambiguously still tied to a university, it ain't gonna work. Trust me. Y'all want answers? Just call me. Details forthcoming. Yeah, Denzel, thanks for sending this along. Sad news today in the college baseball world. Rest in peace to one of the greats on the text line here from White Denzel. Mike Martin, the long-time legendary Florida State baseball coach, passed away today. And let's see. So he would have been, 80 years old? Passed away. He was 80 years old. So Mike Martin, a lot of folks remember him fondly. Great personality, great coach, had great teams over the years. And everybody's teams around here, played them and hosted them and went and played them in Tallahassee at some point, and everybody's had an interaction. So y'all lift up the family and friends of Mike Martin in your prayers, and for the Florida State baseball program as well. I know he's not the coach now. He recently retired, but I'd seen the news, Denzel, in the last several weeks that that he was in hospice, and so we get that news today. Thanks for giving me a heads up on that. Hey, here's a heads up from earlier in the show that I want to repeat. Beaver did the legwork. He found it, sent it to me. You know how yesterday we kept talking about this new quarterback at Tennessee? He was phenomenal in the bowl game, but you couldn't pronounce his name. I called it all kinds of things yesterday. It is spelled, his first name is Nico, and it's spelled IAMALEAVA. Okay, the correct the correct pronunciation, easy for me to say, the correct pronunciation, save that one for the soundboard, is 𝐷𝐿 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿. Did I get it? 𝐷𝐿 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿. 𝐷𝐿 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿. Nico 𝐷𝐿 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿. Say it with me. Nico 𝐷𝐿 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿. Don't try to read it. Just memorize it. Because if you try to read it, it's going to mess it up. The reason I know is Beaver sent me the sound clip from a news story of Nico 𝐷𝐿 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿 pronouncing it himself. Here it is.
I'm Nico 𝐷𝐿 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿, and the correct way to pronounce my last name is 𝐷𝐿 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿.
𝐷𝐿 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿. Got it. Hat tip, my man Beaver. Otherwise, I would have absolutely continued to foul that thing up. All right. On this day, February the 1st, 1968, Vince Lombardi resigned as the coach of the Green Bay Packers. On this day in 1992, Barry Bonds signed the highest single-season contract at the time for $4.7 million for 1 year. That was in 92. On this day in 2015, Tom Brady set a Super Bowl record with 37 completions, and he also increased his career Super Bowl touchdown passes to 13, and that set a new record. That was on this day in 2015. In the TV world on this day 1992, all the way back in, 82. On this day in 82, February 1st, 82, Late Night with David Letterman premiered. First one.
From New York, the greatest city in the world, it's The Late Show with David Letterman.
Yeah, so on this day in 82, it premiered. On this day in 2002, he had his 20th anniversary show. And since I was a Letterman fan, and every time I bring it up on the show, y'all love it, here's my favorite ever all-time top 10 list on the David Letterman, Late Night with David Letterman, when he had Kirby Puckett do the top 10. Here it is.
Tonight's top 10 list. Do me a favor. Please welcome Kirby Puckett. Kirby, come on out. Category tonight, top 10 ways to mispronounce the name Kirby Puckett. Top 10 ways now to mispronounce the name Kirby Puckett. Here we go. Number 10.
Kobe Pickett.
Number 9.
Creepy Pockets.
Number 8.
Bernie Crumpet.
Sure. Number 7.
Turkey Bucket.
Number 6.
Buddy Hackett.
All right. Now back to top 10 ways to mispronounce Kirby Puckett. Number 5.
The Puckett formerly known as Kirby.
Yeah. Number 4.
Punky Brewster.
Yeah. Number 3.
Ken Herbeck.
Yeah.
Almost there. Almost there.
Number 2.
There once was a man from Nantucket who Kirby'd his own Puckett.
Kirby'd his very own Puckett. Kirby'd his Puckett. And the number 1 way to mispronounce the name Kirby Puckett.
Ingle Puck Kirby Dink.
There you go.
That's my all-time favorite. There's some good ones out there, but that's my all-time favorite. So it all kind of happened on February the 1st for Late Night with David Letterman. Made his debut in 82. Of course, had the reunions, 20. I don't know, did he make it to 30? I didn't look that one up. I don't know. That's it. Man, what a 2 hours. You talk about cram full of stuff. Hey, and when y'all see Wyatt McGee walking around out there, pat him on the back and say, hey, I heard you on Matt's show. Welcome to Wyatt McGee, the mortgage man, the Bank of England Mortgage Company here in Mississippi. New locations in Starkville, Oxford, and Tupelo, as well as Ridgeland. Visit them online, mortgagemanms.com. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. See ya.